Up on Capitol Hill, it's no longer a hard day's night. The United States is back in business tonight as President Clinton and GOP leaders agree to end their 6-day budget standoff. But if you read the fine print, you'll see that this agreement just buys each side more time to find an accord on a balanced budget. And there's no sign of compromise on that. John Cochran has the details.
With Congress working in an unusual Sunday night session and after a day of negotiating, the Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole announced the deadlock was over, that federal workers will return to their jobs tomorrow.
What we've agreed to now in a bipartisan, nonpartisan way, I think is a very satisfactory conclusion.
Republicans were jubilant. They got President Clinton and congressional Democrats to agree to a 7-year balanced budget estimated by the Congressional Budget Office.
The fact that we now have a commitment by the President, a commitment by the minority leaders that they will work with us to get to a balanced budget in 7 years, and that it'll be scored in an honest way with honest numbers, I think is one of the great historic achievements in modern America.
President Clinton appeared later to say the agreement requires that Congress protect programs that he cares about.
We must balance the budget, but we must do it in a way that is good for our economy and that maintains our values. That means we have to do it without devastating cuts in Medicare and Medicaid, in education and the environment.
The president said the American people are the real winners. And certainly it was good news tonight for those federal workers who've been wondering just how long this stalemate could go on. John Cochran, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
Well, tonight, West Palm Beach police are investigating a mysterious murder. A man in his 20s is shot to death, apparently while relaxing outside a local home. Police say the man was shot while on the back porch of a house at 8th Street and Douglas Avenue. He managed to make it to the front of the house where he collapsed. Police believe there were people in the area at the time of the shooting, but no witnesses have come forward. Up near Orlando tonight, an entire town is trying to understand what cannot be understood, the murder of a 4-year-old girl. This is the victim, Shelby Cox, her body found in a shed next door to her home in Intercession City. And this is the suspect, her neighbor, 18-year-old Jeremy Scott. She's allegedly confessed to the killing. Today, the people in that town turned out for a memorial service for the 4-year-old. People who never met Shelby on hand today.
I feel sorry. I feel sad. A lot of sadness within me for what has happened. There was no sense, no cause for it. An innocent child was taken.
Scott says he killed the girl when she walked in on him as he was showering. She started screaming and wouldn't stop, so he taped her mouth shut and put her head underwater until she stopped moving. Autopsy results are not in yet. Tonight, one of the weirdest murders ever. 3 people are now charged with killing a Chicago woman and her children, then cutting her unborn baby right out of the womb and kidnapping it. Police say the father of one of the woman's children is now charged with murder. Deborah Evans was 9 months pregnant when she was killed. The infant, named Elijah, is in good condition at a hospital. His mother and 10-year-old sister were found murdered in the family's home. An 8-year-old brother was found dead in a nearby alley. One child in the home was spared. Police believe the father of that 19-month-old committed the murders. You talk about tough love. Tonight, as many as a dozen Fort Lauderdale men are learning the hard way why it's not good to look for love in all the wrong places. They went in search of companionship. Instead, they were attacked and robbed. This is where all the trouble started. A newspaper ad for a dating service. 3 adults and 2 juveniles are behind bars tonight, charged with armed robbery. The victim, who tipped off cops to the scam, says he was beaten with a chair leg and a tennis racket, then robbed of all his cash and credit cards before the group threw him out on the street. Tonight, he's suffering from bruises and a broken heart. Many thought it would pass, but the death of an alleged shoplifter still sparks protest. Tonight, it draws the attention of a heavy hitter who joins in the demonstration against Albertsons. Close to 50 protesters chant and sing in front of Albertsons on North Lake Boulevard. One of them, Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry. Barry rolls up in his white limousine with the entourage of bodyguards. He says he's just disgusted to hear a man was suffocated to death for apparently stealing toothpaste and a brush. After a brief protest, Barry answers the questions most have.
Why would someone come all the way from Washington to this part of Florida, West Palm Beach County, to demonstrate? Injustice anywhere is wrong. Whether it's in Florida or Washington or South Africa, is wrong, and people of goodwill have to come and let people know that we're not going to stand on the sideline and let injustice happen anywhere.
The criminal trial against the Albertsons Corporation starts in December, and legal eagle Roy Black of Miami will represent the side of the late William Alexander. Tonight, traveling by airplane is getting a little bit easier, just in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. It's going to be quicker getting through Palm Beach International and other major airports. The FAA says there's a reduced level of threat, and security measures will be eased. You'll probably notice it the most when you park your car. Meters in front of terminals will be reopened, and drivers will be able to leave their cars unattended for a small period of time. Even without security headaches, traveling during the holidays is frustrating enough. For many of you, before you can sit down at Grandma's house for a whopping plate of Tom turkey, you have to make it through the nation's airports. Wpbf News' Keith Jones spoke with some frequent travelers who offer some travel tips.
Palm Beach International Airport tonight, quiet as a library, about to embark on the heaviest travel week of the year. Close to 100,000 travelers will come through here next week, hustling down the terminal, double takes at the detectors, undoubtedly with frayed nerves trying to get to their gate. But before you make it to this seat where you're patiently waiting for your plane, you have to make it through this maze of headaches we call an airport. But for those of you who don't travel all the time, we have some frequent flyers to give you some travel tips.
Specifically, don't do what I'm doing right now. Get to the airport like more than 10 minutes before your flight.
Because then you won't have time to run a comb through those lovely locks like this guy.
Carry as little as you can. Check as much as you can, because there's not going to be any room on the flights because the flights are so incredibly crowded.
Laura Costco advises to give the Sky Cabs your bags. Otherwise, like this lady, you'll end up with a heck of a workout you really didn't want.
If you can, choose an aisle seat near the front so that you can get on and off the plane quickly.
And speaking of seating, frequent traveler Ginger Bear tells us how to get along with the obnoxious person next to you who insists on hogging the armrest.
If you try to talk to him, if you don't, pretend you fell asleep.
How about avoiding crowded flights altogether?
Avoid traveling on a Thursday evening. Most of your business travelers travel Thursday evenings. Try to get out on a Sunday night if you can rather than a Monday morning.
All great tips, but most importantly, again, arrive early so you won't be running.
I gotta go, I'm gonna miss this flight.
And so you have time to answer our questions. At PBIA, I'm Keith Jones.
And we've got one last tip for you. To cut down on parking problems, try to have someone drop you off and pick you up at the airport. Still lots of reasons to stay up with us tonight, and you've got to see what the cops did this time in Fort Lauderdale.